Today we're going to discuss Project 2, which is called Tonal Relationships. And tonal relationships has to do with the value between the objects, creating that scale of value. Now we know value is everything that exists between black and white. And what we're going to learn today is we're going to learn the middle value of every object and how that middle value lays next to the middle value of the object next to it. And how this tonal relationship between the objects is what really gives you the large visual impression in your drawing. Okay? So before we get into 5 values for every object, we have to be able to recognize the single value that every object inherently has. Okay? And I want you to think about it like this when we talk about the middle value. Think of it as an overcast day, and there's really no lights and there's no shadows when you're outside. And when it's overcast, every object presents its true middle value. Okay? Now when we look at our still life that we've set up, we have our extreme white object, our very dark object, which can be black, dark green, navy blue, something like that. And our 3 pieces of fruit or onion or organic object. Okay. Now the paper is the far white. And when we go to work on our drawing, that white can only be as white as the value of our paper. Okay. So our paper in our setup is the same value as the paper that we're drawing on. All right. And at the other extreme is our dark object. The one I'm using it's almost black. It's really like a super dark green. And that is my darkest object. Okay. And then the 2 apples and the orange fall between the dark object and the white piece of paper. Even if your dark object is different than mine, we know that those 3 objects fall between those 2 extremes. All right, and so as we work on this drawing, we're going to have to be careful about the middle values because they're harder to see, okay, of the 2 apples and the orange. Okay? So as I'm going to sketch the same way, start with the 4 strategies and then use my comparisons. And then I want to give you some quick tips about how to draw an object where it has to be symmetrical. Okay? And then we'll talk about tone. All right, so I've sketched in my rice holder from Asia. Okay, and I'm sketching in my apples. I'm looking at the axis, short, straight lines to build the outline. Okay, so axis from core to the bottom of your apple, and then short, straight lines to indicate its general shape. You're going to do the same thing with the piece of paper. Keep the paper area very nice and clean because it's going to be the value of our white sheet. And okay, orange axis. Oranges are kind of generic and round. Apples are really chiseled away, so make sure you get those straight lines in for the apples. Okay, now when I have a symmetrical object like this, the easiest way to understand how one side can match another is to start with a center line, okay? All right, center line. That way one side we're going to make sure is the same as the other side, a mirror image, okay? So center line, and then you can make a judgment, like if this is the outside of my rice maker right now, my rice holder. I'm going to use my comparison, proportional comparison to compare one side to the other. Okay, my halves are about equal. Okay. Then I'm going to look at where the curve on my pot is, and I'm going to make sure that that curve horizontally aligns. Okay. I'm also going to look at where it starts to curve down at the bottom. I'm going to make sure that aligns point to point. Here I have this one a little low, so I'm going to raise this one up, bring this one down. Okay. And I can do it anywhere. I could do one directly in the middle if I felt like I wasn't getting my bottle the right size. Okay. Same thing with a curved ellipse at the top. Make sure that the ellipses, the points on the ellipses align. And the quick thing about ellipses, ellipses, every quadrant is exactly the same. Okay. So when you draw your ellipses, make sure that each of the 4 quadrants is exactly the same. Now on mine, I realized, okay, I got to bring down my lower one a little bit. And then I can go from my furthest point out. I'm going to bring this in a little bit because now I'm going to line my ellipse up within that quadrant, and this is going to create symmetry for my ellipse. Okay? All right. And then another thing about ellipses is as the ellipse rises up, we see less of it. As it goes down, the lower eye level, we see more of it. Okay, so that was just a quick tip on how to deal with symmetry. Okay. Now we're back to our tonal masses. We know that in my case, the rice holder is the darkest and my paper's the lightest. So I want to go in and start laying in that dark value that's in the middle. It's not the darkest part and it's not the lightest part. One thing you're going to realize when you deal with blacks or dark objects is that they're very reflective, right? They have a lot of reflection in them. So you'll see your light source on the light side, but you're also going to see a lot of reflected light on the shadow side, okay? Coming from other light sources in your room, okay?